Welcome to the show, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Thank you for joining us. I'm super excited about the show today. I have a special guest from Canada. We're going to be talking about Alberta and the things that are going on there. You know, one of the things that happened during the COVID pandemic, a lot of, people were connected in a way that they wouldn't have been connected before through social media. And, the suppression of information kind of drew a lot of patriots together from different countries. And, Americans here, we found a lot of Canadians that probably we wouldn't found otherwise, but we were drawn together because of what they were doing with the pandemic and the government overreach and the mandates and the things that were going on with that. We found a lot of commonalities and things that we were fighting in the same ways in our own countries, and we learned a lot from each other. And so for me, I met a lot of great Canadian patriots, people that I really have come to respect. My guest here tonight is one of those people that, just have really become good friends. Liz Churchill is another one that I've, done a lot of X spaces with, fantastic patriot. Sarah Horsepace is another one too. But, we can learn a lot from each other. And this, I give a lot of credit to Elon Musk for, buying X and allowing us, some free speech on here and allowing us to connect in these ways, because really, we're more educated and we're more aware of what's going on around us, which is a lot. It's a lot of it's bad news because we're finding out the things that our countries are doing, and so that kind of leads into what we're going to talk about tonight. But without further ado, I'm going to bring Nicole up here. Welcome, Nicole. Thank you for coming here tonight. I appreciate you being on tonight. I've been wanting to do a space or a live or a space about this for a while. I'm really interested in Alberta and the things that Albertans are fighting for. A lot of what you guys are doing resonates with Americans. Alberta is a hardworking province, blue collar, really drives a lot of the Canadian economy, and so the things that are happening in the big cities in Canada don't really sit well with what Canada is spending money on and what they're forcing you guys into, and carbon taxes and all these different things that the globalists kind of push in these big cities. You guys are kind of facing and fighting, and so because of that, Albertans are saying, "Screw this! We don't need you, and we can do this on our own because we have this booming economy. We have this great resource, an oil-rich province, and so." That's what we're here to talk about today. So, welcome, Nicole. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. Yeah, it's an interesting time, I think, globally, as we face this, onslaught of globalization initiatives from, a plethora of different angles coming at us. And I think Albertans are just decided that, they're going to at least go for broke and try. Whether this is successful or not is left to be unseen or unknown, but we'll at least not have sat back on the sidelines and just moaned and complained about it. At least made some efforts to try and make some changes for the better good, not just for ourselves, but for our friends and our neighbors. So that's what we're here to discuss today, and figure out how we can kind of maybe just give this a little bit more visibility and let people know a little bit more about what it means, and what we're trying to do. And we've made a lot of progress thus far, so that in itself is inspiring to know that there's some sense of camaraderie within our communities, and we're all sort of facing that same level of dissent for some of the things that the government's trying to do across the board. And that's usually just like what you guys are dealing with federal, right? A lot of federal initiatives that don't serve the best interests of the people. And how we can maybe change that. And to your point around the cities and the urban sprawls, much like the US, these large urban metropolises are usually hubs for immigration. So then, it's kind of, a lot of people that come over don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. So they're more likely to vote in favor of the primary party, and that right now is liberals and has been for a long time. And of course, if people don't know, the Eastern Canada outweighs Western Canada by, I don't even know what the percentage, I probably could have pulled up that statistic, but substantially, that no matter what, if all of Western Canada, including British Columbia, Saskatchewan, the Yukon, um, even Manitoba, we wouldn't be able to outvote the East. They have too many seats. They've hedged their bets, and they outnumber us through leaps and bounds, which is why the Liberal government is predominant. People always say, "Oh, well, you voted them in." Well, no, we didn't actually. I think there's maybe two. Again, statistically, I couldn't tell you because I don't have it in front of me and I don't have access to a computer right at this moment. But there's maybe two liberal seats in Alberta, if that. We're completely conservative. Outside of those seats would exist within those urban locations where there's a really strong push in one district where people have decided they're going to vote in favor of, and usually due to government-led incentives, right, that lead them to want to vote against the will of their community and their neighbors. So we've decided to try and go. So I'll backpedal a little bit. Quebec is predominantly French in Canada, and the Quebec people have on multiple occasions tried to separate from Canada. And that is kind of where a lot of people are like, well, you're not going to have any success. Good luck. And regardless, we're moving forward for obvious reasons. But what happened after they tried and did not, again, get a majority vote was the Clarity Act, which was passed in 2000 by the government, which was set up the framework and infrastructure for a province or territory to be able to follow a certain set of guidelines and, sequential order of steps to lead towards separation. And that primarily involves I think I wrote it down because it's very specific, a clear expression of will by a clear majority. So what we're trying to do right now is we're gathering the signatures, which is a requirement of 10% of eligible voters as per the last election. So that right now the number sits at 177,000. And to the best of my knowledge, based on what I've seen so far, I wouldn't be surprised if we've already met that number. However, when we pass that paper through to the House for review, it then moves forward into another phase, which is now what about the majority? So there's been polls, and the polls have been sort of actually slowly working in our favor. So originally, I think it was like 10, 15%. Then it went up to 20, 25%, wherever we're sitting now, depending on the poll. And again, those are sometimes a little bit skewed and biased. We're definitely still in the majority, but we're gaining traction, I think, because people are realizing, what this means, and what it means for the future of not just our children, but our children's children. So we've all come to terms that this isn't going to be an easy road for anybody in the here and now. However, if we are successful, what we'll be doing is laying the foundation and framework for the future. And that's what we're all committed to. So it's a very selfless act because it will not be an easy path, should we have success. But in the long run, it'll set an appropriate future for our children, our grandchildren, and their children and grandchildren.
What would you say, like, in terms of, like, say it is successful, what do you think it looks like in terms of, like, how you I guess what your relationship is with Canada? Like, if you're successful, if you do gain independence, are you a territory of Canada still? Are you your own country? Would you, like, become a part of the United States? Like, what do you think that looks like? And what is it that most Albertans are wanting if you're successful?
I would say independence. The way, in contrast to America and the way that territories work, such as I think you guys have Puerto Rico, you've got a couple skewed,
Um,
and that's, go ahead.
yeah, Guam is another one.
Guam, yeah. So that's quite different than what we've got here. We've got provinces and territories, but they still fall under the same federal sort of guidelines and umbrella. We had two territories, which then went to three territories, um, and and it's all one and the same to me.
But but
It's all Canada. Go ahead.
isn't like Nova Scotia, aren't they like kind of
They're a
separate?
province. No, they're a province.
Isn't one of them, like, isn't it Newfoundland or Nova Scotia that, like, they don't, like, they're a little bit different than the rest of the provinces though?
No, if anybody was, that would be Quebec, the
Okay.
French. Newfoundland was the last one to come on board, and again, don't you can't quote me on this because I don't have the statistics in front of me. Either the 40s or the 50s, Newfoundland came over. So they're I think our newest province, that finally sort of jumped on board, which in itself is pretty interesting because it's not that long ago. If you look, I mean, we weren't alive, but it's definitely, it's still quite fresh. So that leads me to think that there's still a possibility that this could be successful because we haven't been so entrenched for as long as, like, we're at a 250-year mark, for example. So I think there's a lot to be said there, but we uh, we have territories and provinces, but to me, if you ask me what the difference was, I honestly I couldn't tell you. And as a Canadian, maybe that makes me an embarrassment, but I honestly I don't see any differences in everything that I know about the way they operate and how they get federal funding. How they, if anything, territories have less representation. For example, the Yukon territory has one seat. The
Hmm.
entire territory has one seat. I think Ontario has like 120.
Right.
I think that should sort of, give an idea. Quebec, back to sort of Quebec a little bit, was because it's a bilingual country and Quebec is a predominant French, based on everything that happened way back. They have they have their own party, so they're not liberal or conservative. They're the Bloc. They're the Bloc de Quebecois, and they have enough of a stake that they can form some inside deals. So Quebec is well positioned ultimately, and that's likely why they voted against referendum, or the majority of people did, based on nuances, right? Federal, programs already in place, etc. But so a territory to Canada would definitely be like non-negotiable for anybody who wants to separate or seek independence. It doesn't give us any benefit, in my, the best of my knowledge. Um, Independence would be ideal. I'm aware I've had people like, well, you, I know I'd be really, of course, I'd be landlocked. I know where the ocean sits. So the idea would be a strong alliance to both Canada and, of course, the U.S. Right? We wouldn't be against our neighbors. These are people. We're all all this while, we wouldn't suddenly become enemies inherently to all the people that surround us, or at least the people who would want to separate wouldn't be. So ideally, I would imagine an alliance between both Canada and the U.S., but definitely a strong one with the U.S. because we understand where we'd be sitting politically against Canada by making these moves, right? So they probably wouldn't be too happy and too impressed. It would take time to um, for those wounds to heal. So I would imagine that we'd probably be depending stronger on a U.S. alliance with some sort of accesses and deals to water and ports.
Right.
Um, People have said, and I've had a back and forth on a thread about the 51st state, and the reality is it's really an interesting thing with conservative Canadians as a whole. Conservative Canadians mostly don't support Donald Trump. It's weird. A lot of the people I see on this platform do, but again, we're looking at a small sampling, right? We're looking at what we're our experience, and again, in social media, we're also sitting in echo chambers of agreeability by design. That's what the algorithm does. So we don't necessarily see a lot of dissent and alternative views around certain things. But what I know about people here is most are still like we'll talk about it's kind of going off. We'll talk about fake news in the U.S. right? Fake news, right? MSM, CNN, NBC, ABC, etc. News up here. The problem with a lot of Canadians, whether they be liberal or conservative, is they don't draw a correlation between. So they'll talk about fake news, they'll be talking about American news, but they don't realize how much propaganda is coming at them through Canadian news. So Canadian news being just as bad has definitely been feeding the narrative, just like American news for all this while, that Orange Man bad. And so substantial amount of conservative Canadians believe it, and they think that Donald Trump is like the Antichrist, which is wild. So only through like face-to-face conversations and really having dialogue with individuals that don't feel attacked do they come around. And people can come around. They do come around if they talk to me, for example. But that's a lot of people. So I would say that the overall sentiment of the majority of Canadians, or at least Albertans, would be no, we don't want to be part of America. I do. I think it would be great. However, I can see some reasons why we wouldn't want to be, much like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we already know what's going on in the States, right? So, and it's not just the now, it's the long term, right? So, there's a lot of work to be done everywhere, and jumping into an existing broken system from one to another, for the most part, with people that are seeking freedom and independence with a sensible mind, see no benefit outside of maybe water to joining America, maybe some military, some support, but all in all, the system's just as broken down there. And in a few short years, we don't know what that system's going to look like. So I think that there would be far too much teetering on what ifs. Should that be, and should it ever get to the point of fruition, as what we're talking about, right? So
Yeah.
people are like, well, it's not going to happen, or good luck, and nice try. We'll take you over all these, and these are because everybody's the foremost subject matter expert on everything, especially on the internet. But I think that it's going to be a crawl of stages following these appropriate steps that are outlined in the Clarity Act, and seeing if we can even garner the majority support.
Well,
Which starts first? Go ahead.
yeah. Well, I just wanted a Republic of Alberta is posting a bunch on YouTube, so I've been putting up their comments. So I appreciate you doing that, and for watching tonight. One of the things is if you do gain independence, there's never been a better time to establish a unique relationship with the United States than under President Trump. Talking about like how the President Trump is open to new ideas and open to changing things, which is what we're seeing in Greenland, which is what we're seeing with Venezuela, establishing new relationships because the old ones aren't working to benefit the little guy. And so Alberta, a oil rich country, and the United States, we really were into having the Keystone Pipeline, shipping crude through the United States. It was something that a lot of conservative Americans really want. That's a relationship that we wanted to have with Canada. And so in terms of Alberta gaining their independence and, having their own unique economy, I think there's not been a better time in history for you to do that. And I think it's kind of a perfect storm scenario. If you did it, this is the time
The
to do
time.
it, the absolute correct time to do it. And so, um,
Pretty
you
much
know,
the only time. Like, let's get real. Like we already know, and we talked about this in the election to 2024, that we're at a precipice, right? So this, to me, is a prolongation of the inevitable, unless we have appropriate checks and balances put in place within the time that Trump's in office, right? So I mean, he can chip away at certain things, but there's a few really specific things that have to happen, or else it'll all be for naught. But we're not here for that conversation. However, I couldn't foresee it ever occurring in a scenario where there would be such agreeability or potential agreeability from the U.S. without them worrying about the economics of it all, and we don't want to stir up and ruffle feathers, etc. You know what I mean? The other thing is, like, I took this down too because I was like, what are the specifics? So Alberta has 84% of the total crude oil production in Canada, 84%, and 61% of the total natural gas production. The interesting thing is right now in British Columbia, they're just actually finishing up building a massive LNG plant, which basically takes the liquefied natural gas directly to ships to go where? To China, right? So because of what happened with the Keystone Pipeline, um, what's been done all this while to boost the economy is divert all those resources to China. And that in itself doesn't serve the long interests of humanity, let alone Canada, Alberta, America, and so much more. So I think there's so many reasons and bases as to why, you know, people are short-sighted and selfish in their decision-making process when they think about these things. I will say that I was surprised and inspired when I went to sign the petition, and I mentioned it, I think, about 15 times while I was in line, at how many senior citizens were there. I was really remarkably surprised because a lot of the pollings that I saw around people that were in favor of separation were about a certain demographic and age group, which was younger. Um, and what I saw were, well, outside of farmers, etc., a lot of old people. And I'm talking a lot of old people. I was like, oh my gosh. The interesting thing being that these people have already invested into their pension, which is run by the Fed, right? So that they're getting pension checks from the government. It's almost this like, well, it's not my problem anymore. You know what I mean? My comforts. And Canada's socialist healthcare system, which doesn't serve people my age very well. It's terrible. But when you're old and you're on a bunch of medication, there's a lot of benefits behind having free healthcare, which isn't quite free, but there's a lot of benefits to be said. So a lot of people um, depend on the Canadian healthcare system at that age. So the amount of people that were in line when I just went that were in that sort of demographic surprised me enough that I mentioned it like 10 to 15 times. And that in itself is indicative of how far gone things have gotten, that people are so willing to put their selfishness aside, which is a rarity. It's not a human trait. People are not likely to do such things because, like I said, the road ahead would be long and arduous for us. And we'd be setting those comforts wouldn't be ours to be had. They would be the future generations to be had. But we'd have to be dealing with the struggle to get there. And we're willing to do that based on everything we've experienced. We've looked back in history and we're looking forward to the future, and we see the path we're on, and we don't want it. Now it's trying to find and convince enough people to get that clear majority. When we have those signatures and we present them to the House, we take those next steps towards independence and actually gaining that, which, to my point prior, was something Quebec was unable to do, which in itself is usually a pretty unmotivating for a lot of people because they're like, well, if Quebec couldn't do it, and we know how much those guys want, you know what I mean? Then good luck. But I think that things have shifted well enough, and what we've witnessed, to your point around whether it be the COVID experience and even just like the last 10 years with gross globalization, up to and including Prime Minister Carney's comments about the new, like, did he say the new world order? Oh my gosh, it's scary, and I think that people that aren't paying attention should be, or again, we'll slowly realize that we've lost all our rights and civil liberties, the few that we have left in Canada, and we'll look back on things with regret. And most of us don't want to be regretful, so we're taking action now.
Yeah, I'm just going to read this comment. So, Republic of Alberta posted, Canada only has enough infrastructure for 32 million people, not 44 million people. Ottawa flooded Canada with mass immigration, like Biden flooded the U.S. So, yeah. The other thing is you had touched on is the selling of crude to China or whatever, but I think that that's different from what Carney is doing. So recently, Carney he decided to buy Chinese EVs for Canada, which are it's not going to be a good purchase given your climate and the quality of the cars that he's buying. But and then in return for that, China kind of lifted some of the tariffs on canola oil sales or whatever. The thing is with Alberta selling crude to China, I think is a completely different thing. I think, you know, you guys selling crude to them is kind of a gateway to you selling crude to other countries too. China just happens to be a large consumer that would get your foot in the door. And once that flow is established, I think that other countries would also be interested in buying crude from Canada, maybe even the
Absolutely.
United States. So,
Well, to be fair, I think that, and again, I don't know who is setting up the infrastructure in British Columbia at the port. I imagine it's private with side deals and agreement from the government, right? So I believe that a lot of that would actually be like this is where things get tricky, right? So if the let's say that the crude gets sent all the way to the coast and then it's put onto barges before it's because it's not even going to be refined here, right? It's going to be crude. It's going over there. They're gonna do it all over there. Great, because it's not like we don't have refineries here. You know what I mean? So that in itself just kind of cuts Canada off at the knees a little bit more. But I believe that the infra like it's not the government that builds that infrastructure, right? So to your point, like I don't even know if they could sell it elsewhere. And again, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I believe it would likely be something like for 25 years, we're the direct buyer, or for a contractual term, and we will invest in the core infrastructure in Canada at the port to accommodate where you're because there was nowhere for it to go when Biden cut it off with the Keystone deal. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions, and so it's an interesting thing. But even then, like right now, Alberta isn't in a position as a province, we're not selling anything, right? Corporations are under guidelines that are federally mandated, and what that would do would be able to bring it back. The other thing is that, like, sort of side to that when we're talking about resources is that Canada has already like sort of set it so that like China owns Husky Oil, for example. Husky Oil has sites in Alberta where they have the rights to that land for like 25, 50 years for you know extraction, for pulling it out of the ground. And I don't know what happens with those deals. These are the things that need to happen, I think, because all we're doing is we're helping to feed the beast. I'm using China as an example, and I'm sure there's smaller players, but they're a big player in it all. And what happened with Carney was like one specific deal, right? Where he's like, oh, we're not working towards a free trade agreement. Oh, can you like please put that in ink? But China being like the scariest, I think, and them being so close, that being our core ally as Canadians should unnerve everybody, and the fact that people think that that's okay for the short-sighted vision, right? Well, we're going to make a lot of money. Who's we right now, this generation? At what cost to the future? Nobody's thinking about the future. Well, people are the people that are signing the petition for separation and really at least trying to make some waves. If all else, if the most we get out of this is a better stronghold in the country and better representation, then so be it. But inaction is not an option, or we're all going to just be living with regret, right? So right now, what we need is just more people to go. I'll say real quick: stayfreealberta.com. Find the locations every day. They're going to different pop-up sites. Sign, bring photo ID, proof of your physical address, and get your signature down. And I think, like we were talking about it when I was in line, is um, quality, not quantity to start. Let's get it in right, and then start, boosting up those numbers, and then going for the additional volume. So I'd be interested to see where the numbers are at. But again, that's 10%. What we'd ultimately need would be 51%. So to sign the petition and get it through up to the House is 10% requirement. But what we ultimately need is going to be at least 51%. But I think that a clear expression by a clear majority, I don't know what that clear majority is. I would imagine something more like 65%.
Yeah. In Republic of Alberta, they're watching tonight. If you want to do a show with us, I'm welcome. I'm willing to do
Right?
this again for sure. I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
I'll follow you on YouTube, but if you follow me on X and DM me, we can definitely discuss this further, and we'll have Nick on here again too. So talk to me about the recent vote. So what went on? What was the what were you guys? What is the vote? And then describe to me the environment and the enthusiasm around it.
So I grabbed this other phone so that I would be able to, because that way, because I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
It's a very specific question. And I don't want to just be like, it's something like wishy-washy. So it's a very specific question. So the vote is the petition, which is enough voices, the 10%, which is 177,000 signatures, legitimate verified signatures, right? This isn't somebody having someone in, I don't know, Alabama going online and signing a petition, which is what we originally did, which was just to gauge and garner support, right? So a lot of people from other countries very well could have said yes, I want to separate. That was just sort of the entry point for us to determine whether or not we had enough support to proceed and not waste any time, right? So that came through, and there was this support. And sorry, I'm just pulling up the website. Thereafter is then the physical, where it gives us a window of 120 days which gives time, right? So first you say, do we have enough people? Yes, great. Now we're not wasting our time going and knocking on doors and setting up these pop-up sites. Now it's people signing the physical petition with photo ID, address, phone number. Like, who are you? You're a legitimate person, just like if you were. We require ID for voting, so this is same requirements for as we would for Elections Canada. Um, then that goes and they run a tally. When they get the 177,000, and hopefully we blow it out of the water and we have many more, that then goes to the House. So right now the vote is a window of 120 days, which is people answering the question, which is, do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be part of Canada to become an independent state? That's the question. And the answer is yes. So anybody who signs is answering yes, and that's what we're gathering right now, and that is our vote per se.
Okay. And how many signatures do you have? Like roughly how
I
many?
I couldn't tell you. I'm going to see if I can find a statistic because the website they've got right now, I know it was originally set up for, and I looked for this before I came on to try and find. But because this is all paper, and again, it's not like we've got a running database because we're not going through Dominion.
Yeah.
There's not this running total that's giving us, oh, no, we're now at 156,222, or God only knows. So I'll see if there's a number that's available somewhere that would even give as of last week. Um, and maybe the Republic of Alberta people have an answer. Um, and I'm intrigued. I was looking for this earlier and I couldn't find so far. I'll just see if it'll give me
So
a number somewhere.
do you have enough though? Do you have enough to
I
get it?
believe so. I
Yeah.
would believe so. I believe that we would, based on what I've witnessed and what I've seen through other videos, and where I was a town outside of Edmonton, Alberta. Go Oilers! Um, uh, just this town where I go to get my groceries, because I live farther out. And, they said it started at noon. And I remember sitting, like, I was in the mall. They have a little mall. It's like it's a little rundown mall. I was sitting in the parking lot killing some time. And I thought, oh, it's about quarter to 12. I can head over there now. And I did. And I thought, I didn't know people were getting in line beforehand because there had to be. I did a quick head count based on, it was indoors, thank God, because it was freezing out. And I did a head count. I was kind of 2, 4, and somebody's looking at me like, 25, 300, So my guess was about 300 people were ahead of me at noon when I arrived. So 300 people had already gotten in line and been standing around waiting for it to start. When I left, the flow didn't stop. It was just this steady flow of people coming. So from what I witnessed, and that was one day out of the 120 days we're going to have in one location out of many. Um, while there's other initiatives happening at different locations, the video that was just posted by Ian on Patriot that I had commented on, and I think you would have tagged me in, that was in Calgary, Go Flames, at the Saddle Dome, which is where they host their NHL games, and that was pretty well packed. That's Calgary. Calgary being one of those urban sprawls that are likely to be more liberal based. So that should be a bit of an indicator as well. I didn't know originally where that was when I saw the video, but then when I realized it was in Calgary, I thought, well, that's awesome because that's one of the two big cities, right? The big cities are the ones that we're going to be less concerned about. However, predominantly these were obvious natural born citizens that I saw in the audience. And this is nothing against people who have immigrated, but with a gross, disgusting amount of mass immigration pushed by the federal government, um, I would I would be surprised if I did see any immigrants there because this would work against them, right? So whatever the numbers are, I don't know what that percentage would be. So a building that packed, um, that's still a small percentage in comparison to the numbers that they've been pumping in. To the point of that comment that was posted up earlier, so it's a little interesting. But when we talk about that 10%, I believe that we will absolutely meet and or exceed that. The next phase will be getting that clear majority. And in that window, that's where we've got to be having these types of conversations and at least trying to educate our neighbors and having these talks so that people can understand what the long game looks like and why it's so imperative to take action now.
Yeah, the Republic of Alberta said they're not releasing the numbers, so people keep signing until May. We're hoping for 1 million over 120 days. So, um,
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah, and in terms of like, you know, like, I guess I don't know, like, is there like, are there like political action committees that are pushing for this, or is it like, is it just all like individual? Who is the major, like what is the entity that kind of is pushing it, I guess?
I believe it's mostly independent. Again, it sounds like Republic of Alberta sure is well informed on all this. Um, I do know that Danielle Smith, I'm not a big fan. She's the premier of our province, and when Carney was elected as prime minister after, thankfully, God Trudeau decided to not continue, although which is worse, I don't know. Um, when he was elected in as prime minister, she had made a statement around moving forward towards separation. Now, I came in kind of like, I've been all for this, but I came into sort of any sort of participation later in the game because, like, let everybody set the foundation there. I'll donate, volunteer my time, but let me know what I can do right now. Now that we're at the point where we're even just gathering signatures, I can help. I can use my voice. I can talk to people. I can get people piped up. But until then, I was kind of just waiting in the sidelines for something to occur. And so I believe that Danielle Smith, which would be, I don't even know if she. This would be a question again for Republic of Alberta because I'm not a fan of her. Um, I don't we've got a lot of parties in Canada, and originally it was this. I don't know if it's like I don't think it's the Conservative Party. Like, is this like back to the Wild Rose Party? I can't remember. This is like, so we had different parties, and then some of them sort of merged together. In Alberta, it's really specific, and I'm looking to see what they've got in here. It's collective signatures. Gotcha. So I believe that we do have some members of government who are involved, but active members of government who are involved towards this. I don't believe there's anything in regards to sort of like a PAC. I think most of it's grassroots. This the group that started the signature collection for this referendum is the same group that actually tried to kick off an initiative to take our pension from being federally mandated under the Fed to being managed by Alberta. So they actually had done a similar initiative, quite different, but under the similar sort of framework, where it's a grassroots group working to say, we don't want you, the Fed, having control of our pension dollars. We want to manage it here because we can invest it locally, boost our own economy, and actually have control over our funds. I think that fell through, but it's the same group that's working towards a lot of these really great, more local and really sort of Alberta-driven initiatives. So they didn't just come into the framework for this. They had already started some other things that were actually laying the foundation towards the conversation of separation, obviously, by wanting to move the pension, for example.
Republic of Alberta shares your sentiment about Danielle Smith. So
Yeah, yeah.
Danielle Smith is a Federalist. She swore allegiance to King Charles, not Albertans. So
Totally.
Yeah.
And like I think her comments were really more like emotionally driven when she made them around we're going to seek independence. And I think that any comments that she made were far more with the intention of gaining leverage, right? So like a lot of people are like, well, if anything, this will just give you leverage to have more seats. And I said, like, if all else and that was what we walked away with, it would be better than nothing. However, in the long run, independence would far in the long run, independence is our goal because anything else that, although would be of a benefit, would still lead us down the same path we're on. It would just prolong it a little bit.
Yeah. And so, moving forward, like, what do you want Albertans to know? What do you want people to know? I feel like we owe Canadians a lot because they helped us in our last election, right? So that's why I want to do this stuff. That's why I do spaces with the UK in their fight against, Keir Starmer and their government. I've helped out UKIP in the UK, and obviously I'll help out Canadians too, especially if they're going for the right causes. And so, what do you want Canadians to know? What do you want Albertans to know and do? How can they help the movement? How can they, kind of push for this thing that you guys are trying for?
I will still sort of offer the opportunity for Republic of Alberta to offer anything as well because they seem to be well versed in all this. But I would say to start, go to stayfreealberta.com, find a location, sign the petition, the referendum, like vote in favor of, um, and volunteer, become a canvasser if you can, donate if you can. Um, and it goes back to a lot of what we tried to push when we were having these conversations with America around getting Donald Trump reelected. But really back to, and this is something I'm just as passionate about when we talk around local community involvement, right? Starting in your backyard, working into your community, then your county, whatever it may be, and then your state or province, right? But being involved. So like to other Canadians, like I love Canada. It's my country. However, it has failed to be serving my interests for the entirety of my life. I can guarantee it. But in the last even 20 years, watching this is the entire Western world has been experiencing, right? It's just metastasized into this horrific thing, and we're watching the direction it's going in. And again, this isn't unique to Alberta. This isn't unique to America. It's the entire Western world, and we're watching it in real time. We're living it. So we can either choose to be part of that and just go with the flow, or say we're not going to take it. And so this is our opportunity to say we're not going to take it, and we've only got a few of those. So what Canadians and Albertans can sign and volunteer time, and Canadians can understand how this might actually help set the foundation for them as well. Um, Even if it means giving us an opportunity in a way to reform the government better. Um, it works on so many levels. This is also about getting rid of the Commonwealth, right? We're a Commonwealth country, and some people are like, oh, like it's a good thing. It's not a good thing. Especially like, I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Queen Elizabeth, but geez, King Charles, are you kidding me? This is embarrassment. And so when you think about the people that are way up at the top, and who again to the point of the Republic of Alberta, the allegiance to King Charles. Like, are you kidding me? Like the guy with the sausage fingers, the guy like we're talking like most of these people are inbred. It's wild. It's wild that we're still living under this this really archaic system, right? And I understand how it was. When you look at the rest of the world and how things advance and how economies shift and change and country lines shift and move and wars come and go, and we're watching these things happening, these really big drastic changes, and we're just supposed to be stagnant here and comply, and compliance leads to complacency. Um, and then eventually we're just complicit to it all. And I don't want to be complicit to a future that is the one that we're bound to be on the path that we're on. And at least we'll have said that we tried. So to anybody who's wondering if they should or shouldn't, when you look back 20, 30 years in your life and we're on that horrific road towards globalization, and to the Chinese troops are marching in, you can ask yourself, could I have done anything? And yeah, you darn well could have. And this is the time to do it. So that's my
Right.
message.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at the UK. I mean, it's a disaster over there. I mean, who the hell would want that? I mean, they got the issues with the rape gangs, and like they had, like, Christmas, like you couldn't put out Christmas decorations in some cities in the UK. I mean,
It's
who the
wild,
hell would want them running the show for for your country?
right?
Canada, or I mean, Alberta is a lot, I compared to, like, that's basically like the Texas of Canada, right? It's, kind of a live free, kind of a blue collar, proud of, the hard work and ethic that you guys have. And so, who the hell wants, somebody, in England basically having a say over what happens there, because they're not the same. You guys are not
Right.
cut from the
The only
same.
thing, the only thing I can say is a benefit is that I'm surprised that, and nothing, whatever, people don't like, I'm not racist. However, the fact that we, if we have somebody who's a foreigner who's leading our government, at least it's Mark Carney, and it's not, who's the darn guy who's the mayor of England? Have you seen that guy? Like, what is going on in the world? Where even people that aren't even citizens can like rule over a country is wild. I think last year Canada brought in proudly two. We brought in 2 million immigrants. We're going to shoot for more. Like, what in the frick? The infrastructure, the the way people interact, right? Different cultures, right? The mishmash of it is already, we're already seeing the effects of it. And in large locations, like if you look at Toronto, I mean, we're talking about Alberta, but like Toronto, right? They're getting a lot of like African migrants, right? Where you've got the Toronto police saying, we're going to give you a free thing that'll help you barricade your front door. But if your door gets kicked in, leave your car keys right at the front door. Like, whatever, we're just imploring you, leave your car keys at the front door. So if somebody kicks in your door, they won't come in and murder and rape you. They'll take your car. That's the advice you're giving your citizens? Like, this is like, are you kidding me? This is really happening, and it's wild, and it's not. These are immigrants that are doing this, and this isn't like a, oh, you're like, this is the reality, right? Because it's culture shock for them too, right? They're coming over in mass, um, and this is across the board, and so like, if we don't curb it now in a few short years, I know people from almost every country, and I have no issue with people from like, I'm all about diversity. However, there's certain cultures that just don't mix, and pushing and thrusting it upon people, and a certain culture that has different ideals, doesn't end well. And we're watching that in real time everywhere. So, if it doesn't stop, all we can do as people is try and do our best to stop it. And again, not for ourselves. This is for our children's children's children. And if we don't do it now, where will we end up? And that is the scariest thought. And if people aren't having those thoughts, they need to be, because anything else is selfish and short-sighted. And that's the world we're living in right now, where people are too concerned about, well, this doesn't affect me right now. If it doesn't affect me, I'm not worried about it. Well, it's going to affect you eventually. And when it does, it's going to be far too late. So, it's really just about people saying that they're awake, but still being kind of woke. And it's really about them seeing the differences without chastising them, and just having, again, those true conversations, and hoping that they can come to see the realization of the future that's in front of us, and doing what they can to change it.
Yeah. So, how long do they have to vote? How long do they have to get their signatures on the till May?
I think it's like approximately May 2nd. So let's just say like till May. And that gives them 120-day windows from when they started, which is really an interesting thing, the way that was handled, because I think that, as I noted, by doing an online, it's drawn out, but it's drawn out so that we make sure we get all the checks and balances in place, so it's not a waste of anybody's time, right? And so they're like, oh, we did it wrong, now it was all for naught. So everything has taken as long as it has to ensure that things are being done appropriately. So we're actually more likely set up for success should we be able to garner enough votes for that clear majority after we get these signatures. Which, again, to the point of Republic of Alberta, I have no doubt that we'll get that 10%. It's really about getting that 51, but in my opinion, I'll say 65%, right? When it needs to be a clear majority. It can't just be like, oh, 51 versus 49, because that's not a clear majority, and that would likely be contested in the courts. So it'd have to be like through leaps and bounds, an obvious majority, and that's what we have to work on in the sidelines while we're having people sign. So even if not everybody signs, it's not lost to have those conversations, because there's still more to come, right? So after the petition and after it goes to the House, and if the House says this all seems good, then I imagine there likely would be an actual vote where we garner that clear majority. Um, and these conversations need to start happening now so that people can start wrapping their heads around what it means, and really coming to the same conclusion, ideally, that everybody who is sane has already come to, which is independence and separation.
Okay. Yeah, and Alberta, Republic of Alberta's.
I'm loving this account.
Yeah, yeah, no, they're awesome. And I'm glad they came in here tonight because I posted pretty much everything they said, and we get our trolls in here too. You are a scam. I'm not a
A
scam.
scam. What does that mean? Can you please send me a Google Play card? Like, what does that mean? You're a
Yeah,
scam. What
we're just
country are you from? Because that doesn't even make sense. But whatever, I digress. It's
yeah.
wild.
We get all kinds. You should see my. I don't even go too deep into my comments sometimes because
Right?
some
You
of them.
can't. I did that earlier, and then I was just like, I'm probably gonna lose my account if I keep up because I'm just like, you're retarded, and I'm just like, okay, scale it back because half of it's just rage bait, right?
Yeah. So. Well, I appreciate you coming here tonight. Albertans have till about, I guess, May to sign the petition. Hopefully they sign now. Hopefully they keep the momentum going. Hopefully, like I said, it's never been a better time for you guys to do this, with President Trump in office, to kind of establish a new relationship, to have some new trade relations with the United States. I think could be hugely beneficial, especially breaking free from your old system and starting out, because there's things that probably aren't being considered, and Canada may not play ball with you on some things, and things that you guys have invested in. So you're going to need to get that money flowing through, trade routes, the Keystone Pipeline, these types of things to kind of get you guys up and running. But I think you can do it because you have the resources. It's a resource rich province that you guys could do it. So, I think it's awesome for you guys, and I think it's awesome that you guys are standing up for yourself. I love that about you, and that's why I love talking to you guys, because you're standing for freedom, and um, all the right things, and we kind of are in the same battle down here too, and so we have that in common. So I just appreciate you
Truly.
coming. Yeah, I appreciate you
No,
coming in here tonight.
pleasure. I will also say, like, the other thing outside of like funding is that negotiations partners, right? So if we're in the window still where we've got this current administration, I have zero doubts that there would be, again, like, one, the opportunity for a strong alliance, and then the ability to sort of leverage off that alliance, for some better negotiations. Through side agreements, right? So I think that having an existing alliance with the U.S. as Albertans would give us the appropriate leverage we would need to be able to push back on certain things. And if we had to make some concessions to America for a particular, you know, right, aggression of tariffs or whatever it might be, you know what I mean? I'm sure that Albertans would be willing to absolutely make some concessions around that, for the greater good and whatever it may be. And I think that a lot of that would be, scratch my back, you scratch mine, I'll scratch yours. And I have no doubts that that would be, something very good on the table. But again, I can't imagine it being in too many administrations where that would be accommodatable outside of this existing one. Um, Due to Trump being a very reasonable individual, despite lots of people not seeing and understanding that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys are successful. To be honest with you,
Me too.
I'm sick of our government throwing our money away. Us busting our ass our whole life, and pissing away our tax dollars. We have the Somali daycare scams now
Oh,
that like just
and not
billions.
even just a bit, billions. Like, where it's just like, what? And that's out of one state. It's wild.
Crazy.
In California, oh
Yeah,
no,
crazy. Like, and
there's
the sad part is so many Americans pay so much for daycare, and they really have to consider, like, should the wife go to work, or daycare? Like, they really have to weigh this out, and they're basically not taking any profits because daycare is so expensive and stuff like that. And then you see these Somali daycare scams where there's not even kids going there, and they're getting millions of dollars being thrown into this daycare thing. And it's like, imagine being a hardworking person and you're like paying for daycare out of pocket, and then you're seeing this scam going on. It's like, where in the fuck was this money when I was, you know what I mean? Like, why are
I
they getting
agree.
money and we're not, and so we're
I agree.
people
Well, I
are
was going to say it's like veterans. How many veterans are on the street? How many people that serve the country to protect the rights and freedoms of the citizens that reside there are homeless, are getting no support through the VA. Like there's so many atrocities, and then you say, hold on, you couldn't fund this, but you can fund this over here. There's some gross, really disgusting things that we're witnessing in regards to like hypocrisies, and political deals, side deals, right, that are self-serving to some particular politician, that undermine hundreds, thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people, citizens aside, veterans. Like, are you kidding me? The fact that like that in itself is an argument, a conversation that could take me up like 3 hours, where I'm just like, what is happening? What bizarre world is this? Where this is even like, a conversation to be had. So I agree. Like in the daycare thing, you're just like that's just like it came out of left field. There was already a big mountain of things that we were already talking about, and that's why when I have conversations with people, are like, you should become the 51st state. Hold up, like leaving one corrupt crap system for another. I love America and I love Americans. The systems are broken. They're flawed. Everybody needs to find a way to fix it. But until that happens, why would anybody want to leave one broken one for another? If somebody said, "Would you like to?" Of course, I would love to be. Geez, I would love to be. However, there's a bunch of out of the thousands of reasons why I wouldn't want to be, based on what we're all witnessing, right? And this is, a larger about like how we can use one scenario or situation such as what we're trying to do here in Alberta to garner inspiration, and support for other people to do similar things, and not even just separation per se, but alone in America, just like what you're doing around precinct strategy, right? Being local, but, holding your own government accountable, not just saying we need to hold people accountable, posting on social media, not actually doing anything to hold them accountable, right? Talking about it isn't going to do anything. It requires action, right? So I think that if more people see the action, they might be more inspired to take action on their own, and serve their community better, and make the change that they want to see, and not expect somebody else to come along and do that. So I think that, if anything, we can use this as an example to show that we can actually make change, or at least start the conversation to having some change occur, by taking action and not sitting idly in the sidelines.
Yeah, you guys rock, and you guys, I'm really proud of you guys for standing up for yourselves and saying, saying enough is enough, and getting together, putting it on paper, and I hope you guys are successful. Honestly, I think it's a really cool thing that you guys are doing. Obviously, we have a lot, like in the chat, there's a lot of support for it, and just really really cool to see you guys doing that for yourselves. And like I said, if ever we want to, you want to do another, we can do another live or space or whatever to help to get the message out on some of these issues, and to get people out there to sign the petition. I'm definitely down, so I appreciate
I
you.
agree. And
Yeah,
Republic of Alberta, I'm going to go find you and follow you because love
yeah,
it.
they're on
Yeah,
YouTube. They've been commenting like crazy on YouTube. I'll have to find them if they're on X. Hopefully they're on X, because I'd like to
I'll
do.
find them on YouTube too.
Yeah,
Totally, I would agree. Yeah,
yeah,
let's get them on somehow or another. I agree.
yeah. And Yo Daddy, he came in here too. He said Albertans want a constitution like America, especially First Amendment, Second Amendment, and open carry. Yeah, I agree. That's that's important, because that's one of the issues that you guys don't have these same things outlined that we have in our constitution, which protects us, and you guys need that. So
For sure.
yeah. So, well, Nick, I appreciate you taking the time. We've been doing this for about an hour now. I appreciate you coming in here,
Thanks for
talking
having
to us
me.
about this. I'm rooting for you guys, and I hope you're successful. And yeah, just this is the most comments I've had in a while on one of these lives. So obviously, there's a lot of people that are really interested in this. So I
Passionate
appreciate.
topic, for
Yeah,
sure.
I appreciate you guys commenting tonight. I appreciate the reposts. You guys are doing awesome things, and thank you so much for coming in here tonight. Any final words for you?
Lastly, I'll just say again, let me just, I had took notes, which was everything I've already babbled about. Stayfreealberta.com. It's basically like three buttons. One is where to vote or where to sign. One's to donate, and one's to volunteer and be a canvasser. There's not a lot of information on there. I wish maybe I'll figure out if I can volunteer my time towards helping to sort of work on the website and provide more resources and links so people that have questions have a forum. But it's irrelevant right now. We just need the signatures. So go to stayfreealberta.com. If you're in Alberta, find your location. Go and check it out. They do have speakers. They do have events as well. Every single one of those has signature opportunities, but that's where you're going to start, and then from there, just get on social media, find your people that are on board, and have some conversations and figure out how you can utilize your voice in one way or another to spread the word. It doesn't have to be through canvassing. It can be through conversation. Again, things like this, social media, post about it, let people know that you're there and what your opinion is, because our voice matters. And the more people see that there's a voice, the more people are going to come out of their shell and say, hey, you know what, I agree with that. And more people are going to stand up and actually take the leap of faith and go for broke and sign and hope for separation.
Yeah, for sure. Be overt in what you want, and don't be afraid, because you're not alone. We found that in the last election with President Trump. In the 2020 election, people were really afraid to wear like MAGA hats. They were afraid to do all these things. And in 2024 election, what we realized is you have to be overt. You have to show, like, I gotta wear, like, I'm 6 foot 225, so nobody's gonna mess with me. But like, I felt like I obligated to wear my stuff out to the grocery store so that the little old ladies know that they're not alone when they want to wear their stuff or whatever. Like, you're not alone when you wear that stuff. And now, it's nothing to see like somebody wearing a Trump shirt or like an America First or a Charlie Kirk shirt or whatever. Like, you see that stuff all the time now. But I think it's important to be overt in the support, so that the people that are maybe more timid or whatever, that they can show that they support also and not be afraid. So
I
um
can't agree more. I will say, like, as a sort of as an anecdote, that's me with my mega hat. And again, lots of Albertans like just have some issue with Trump because they've been drinking the Kool-Aid and think that they're wide awake. But you know what I mean. So I have a mega hat and it's a black one. I love it. And like I get like I might get a look, but nobody's going to say anything. And again, I'm like 5'4". I'm no 6 foot something, whatever. But I have a bit of an energy about me, and I'm willing to let's go. And not once, I haven't had a single issue. I've had some off the cuff comments to which I've stopped and said, sorry, what was that? And people will not repeat it. But I've had so many people, to your point, approach me and tap me on the shoulder and say quietly, I really like your hat. Or sorry, I can't say this any louder, because they're really worried about the blowback. Me, I couldn't care less. However, you're right on point for that about being overt and really just letting people know I'm out here and I'm happy to be that voice, and I'm happy to be confronted. I live for confrontation, and I understand a lot of people don't. But I think that more people need to see that, because again, complacency leads people to leave that general consensus, and people that figure they're going to go with the majority, and they don't know what the majority is. What's being fed to them as being the majority is coming through propaganda campaigns from the media, which is primarily, biased towards government, right? So I think that it behooves us all to do such things, and we need to see far more of it. And again, thank you for having me.
yeah, awesome. And Yo Daddy left a comment, make
I love
Alberta
it.
great again, MAGA.
You know
Yeah.
what? I might put an Alberta over my mega hat sticker just to really ruffle some feathers next time I head out. And if I do, I'll take a picture and I'll post it on Twitter.
Yeah, go for it. Like, you guys
I
rock.
absolutely will.
Yeah,
Awesome.
just keep hitting home, keep driving about this. I was proud to see, you posted about that the other day at you at the you guys signing the petition and all the people that they had there and stuff like that. I think it's really cool. So awesome. You guys rock. Keep
I
keep posting about that stuff.
I know you're ending the space, but I will say when I left, and I posted about this, when I left, people were coming in, and I just started saying to people, hey, thanks for coming. And people were like, hey, no, thank you. And everybody's kind of coming in quietly, kind of like zombies. Everybody's just going in line, like we're signing this thing. And I was just like rallying the troops. I was like, woo, people were walking coming out of their cars. I was heading to my car. I'd already signed, and I was just like, woo, woo. And people were like, oh my, and then people started whistling, and we started making some noise, and I was like, this is what it's about. And we got to do a lot of that. And I'm really inspired, really excited, and I'm hoping for glory. So wish us all luck, everybody. And again, Jay, thanks for having me. And here's to doing this again.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a good night, Nick. I appreciate you coming in here.
Thanks.
All right, there you have it. So, talking about Albertan independence in Canada, they got a petition going. So if you're in Alberta, go to the website. I posted them in the chat. Take a look at them, find out the information. If you haven't signed the petition, sign the petition. Let's make it happen for Alberta. You guys deserve better, and you don't need to be paying into a system or have a government that isn't looking out for your best interests. And so good on them for standing up for themselves and trying to make it better for their kids and their grandkids. So I really, that really resonates with me. And so good on them for doing that. So that's all I really have for tonight. Thank you for everybody that posted, commented, reposted the live. You guys rock. I thank you so much. We'll probably do another one of these again because I want to get an update on this. I want to see how things are going in Alberta, and I really am interested to see what happens of this, what Alberta looks like if they are successful beyond this, because I think they're a resource-rich province, and I think they have a lot going for themselves, and they can do a lot better having more control of their province. So good on them. So without further ado, thank you for joining, and please tune in next week. So have a good night.